Okay, I'm going to attempt to finish up. I guess this is part 3 of this chapter in Wuthering Heights. Let's see. They were talking about. What were they talking about? Kathy. She was ill. She stayed out in the cold and the rain. And the doctor said he bled her and told me to let her live on whey and water gruel and take care she did not throw herself downstairs or out the window. And then he left, for he had enough to do in the parish, where 2 or 3 miles was the ordinary distance between cottage and cottage. Though I cannot say I made a gentle nurse, and Joseph and the master were no better, and though our patient was as wearisome and headstrong as a patient could be, she weathered it through. Old Mrs. Linton paid us several visits to be sure and set things to rights, and scolded and ordered us all, and when Catherine was convalescent, she insisted on conveying her to Thrushcross Grange, for which deliverance we were very grateful, but the poor dame had reason to repent of her kindness. She and her husband both took the fever and died within a few days of each other. Our young lady returned to us saucier and more passionate and haughtier than ever. Heathcliff had never been heard of since the evening of the thunderstorm, and one day I had the misfortune, when she had provoked me exceedingly, to lay the blame on his disappearance on her. To lay the blame of his disappearance on her. Where indeed it belonged, as she well knew. From that period, for several months, she ceased to hold any communication with me, save in the relation of a mere servant. Joseph fell under a ban also. He would speak his mind and lecture her all the same, as if she were a little girl, and she esteemed herself a woman and our mistress, and thought that her recent illness gave her claim to be treated with consideration. Then the doctor had said that she would not bear crossing much. She ought to have her own way, and it was nothing less than murder in her eyes for anyone to presume to stand up and contradict her. From Mr. Earnshaw and his companions she kept aloof, and tutored by Kenneth in serious threats of a fit that often attended her rages. Her brother allowed her whatever she pleased to demand, and generally avoided aggravating her fiery temper. He was rather too indulgent in humoring her caprices, not from affection but from pride. He wished earnestly to see her bring honor to the family by an alliance with the Lintons, and as long as she let him alone, she might trample on us all like slaves for aught he cared. Edgar Linton, as multitudes have been before and will be after him, was infatuated, and believed himself the happiest man alive on the day he led her to Gimmerton Chapel 3 years subsequent to his father's death. Much against my inclination, I was persuaded to leave Wuthering Heights and accompany her here. Little Hareton was nearly 5 years old, and I had just begun to teach him his letters. We made a sad parting, but Catherine's tears were more powerful than ours when I refused to go, and when she found her entreaties did not move me, she went lamenting to her husband and brother. The former offered me magnificent wages. The latter ordered me to pack up. He wanted no women in the house, he said, now that there was no mistress, and as to Hareton, the curate should take him in hand by and by, and so I had but one choice left, to do as I was ordered. I told the master he got rid of all the decent people only to ruin a little faster. I kissed Hareton, said goodbye, and since then he has been a stranger, and it's very queer to think it, but I've no doubt he has completely forgotten all about Ellen Dean, and that he was ever more than all the world to her and she to him. At this point of the housekeeper's story, she chanced to glance towards the timepiece over the chimney, and was in amazement on seeing the minute hand measuring 1:30. She would not hear of staying a second longer. In truth, I felt rather disposed to defer the sequel of her narrative myself. And now that she is vanished to her rest, and I have meditated for another hour or two, I shall summon courage to go also, in spite of aching laziness of head and limbs. Yay! Finished chapter 9 after 3 parts. Okay, so we'll be on chapter 10 tomorrow. Whoop, 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 whoop. I think it's getting a little easier and a little more interesting. I hope. I know I slay when Joseph speaks, and I am sorry about that. I really need to listen to it on Audible first. I'll try to do that. Love you. Be sweet. Don't be ugly. See you tomorrow live. Bye-bye.